Hello and welcome to coverage of Round 9 here at Grand Prix Montreal. Maria Bartholdi and Reed Duke calling the match for you here. Ari Lax on the left side of the screen, undefeated at 8-0 versus Alexandre Cadeau, also at 8-0. Thoughtbound Phantasm, turn 1 here for Ari Lax, whose deck we've seen on camera a bit today, Reed, and it's pretty sweet.
Yep, Demir Surveil. He's got Demir Surveil, which is, in my opinion, the most impressive guild so far today in individual sealed deck. And Ari's deck in particular is chock full of cheap removal, so he can keep pace even against a fast Boros deck. So he's nicely covered all his bases and just has a well put together package. In the case of both these players, their sealed decks have gotten them this far, but this 9th round is still big. This is the difference between being in good position for top 8 or just sort of making day 2 and being one of the pack.
Burglar Rat on the table, forced a discard for Ari Lax. He's going to toss a Guild Gate. And the difference here, you might say, wait, Golgari with blue and Demir with green, those are the same things. But what we mean here is that Alexandre is primarily green-black splashing blue, and Ari Lax is primarily Demir splashing green.
Right, so often when you build a 3-color deck in sealed, you're going to choose your main colors, and yeah, you're still playing your very best cards, your removal spells, and your bomb rares in all your colors, but your 2 main colors are where you're playing your bread and butter, like average level creatures. You don't want to play some medium level green creature if you only have 4 sources of green mana in your deck. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's the difference between Golgari with blue and Demir splashing green.
Nightveil Predator for Ari Lax, 3/3 Death Touch Hexproof. And we're going to see a Severed Strands here on a Burglar Rat to take down that Thoughtbound Phantasm, Reed.
That's a pretty unexciting play. That's disappointing if I'm Alexandre Cadeau here. Having to kill Ari Lax's second best creature and 2-for-1 myself while I do it.
Whisper Agent able to get in for 3 points of damage there. Lax down to 17. Muse Drake will draw a card. Deadweight takes down Cadeau's creature. Ari Lax running 3 copies of Deadweight.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Deadweight, of course, it can fail sometimes. It doesn't take care of your opponent's late game bomb, but just the value of not really having to sweat those guild mages, not having to worry about a quick Boros curve out. It's so valuable, so efficient, and efficiency is just what you want when you're playing a Demir deck where you can draw extra cards.
Watcher in the Mist here from Cadeau. We've got a little bit of a Surveil action there. Child of Night's going to hit the bin. 3/4 flyer in the air. But remember that Nightveil Predator does also have Death Touch.
So the best Alexander can hope for is to trade off against the Nightveil Predator, which is not great, but it's certainly step 1 for his comeback.
All right, let's match your Watcher in the Mist with one of my own for Ari Lax here. On the Surveil, we're going to put a Demir Informant and an Unexplained Disappearance into the bin. Wow, good cards.
Yeah, I guess Ari just figures when it comes to the Demir Informant, this battle is not going to be fought and won over ground creatures attacking. It's more who can stick the biggest creature in the air, who can get some card advantage. So he's not too worried about the 1/4 body. Similarly, Unexplained Disappearance, a good card, but Bounce not looking to do much on this board, nor do much in a game that's going long and more about resource advantage.
I guess my question is, if I see something like a Demir Informant off a Surveil, I'm usually like, yeah, sure, why not? I get 2 more Surveils when I play it. Do you think it just isn't high impact enough that I should just let it go?
Well, your strategy is reasonable, and it depends a little bit on the context. So it does help you make sure you're not going to draw too many lands, which that's a big part of these late game situations. But it also, if you were to count the 1/4 body as not being worth a card, it would put you at a card disadvantage.
Okay.
So it's a question of card quality versus card quantity, and if you're just worried about the amount of cardboard that you're holding in your hand, then you probably want to bin the Demir Informant and look for something that can either have a large impact on the battlefield or draw you even more cards.
Rhizome Lurcher here for Ari Lax. We get to see a little bit of that green splash here, coming in with 4 counters.
Another great reason to bin the Demir Informant.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, so that thing is a 6/6 now. statue is going to take care of it, though, enabling another attack with that Whisper Agent, putting Lax down to 8. Muse Drake continues to chip in there for 1 point of damage. Kedo falls to 16. Then we're going to see a jump start there. And Plague Crafter sacrifice.
So by the way, Maria, it looks like we corrected the graphics. Both of these guys are just blue-black based.
I think I was getting a little confused once I saw the Watcher in the Mist on Kedo's side of the table. There is a card we haven't seen at all today, or I haven't. No, I'm not sure if I've ever seen it cast.
Glaive of the Guild Pact.
Glaive of the Guild Pact.
It's a really cool card. It takes a lot for it to be good because normally the more guild gates you're playing, the more you're thinking of your deck as a slower late game control deck, usually the smaller number of creatures you have. And the less that type of deck wants in equipment. So
sure.
It's almost like the better the glaive is going to be in your deck, the less your deck wants it. But if you find that right balance where you do have creatures and you do have guild gates, it's a very powerful card.
All right, it's going to be equipped here to Midnight Reaper for Kedo. Plague Crafter able to get in.
So keeping in mind this gives Menace.
That's true. But a Deadly Visit is going to give it right to the graveyard. And Kedo is going to be able to draw a card off of it, though, as it does count itself. Ooh, I think I spot a Dream Eater on the draw there.
Wow.
That is a nice one when you're very nearly living off the top of your library.
Yeah, Surveil 4, that's just so much, not to mention a huge body. Nothing really good to bounce here. He doesn't want to bounce that Plague Crafter.
Oh no. Notion Rain for Ari Lax. We're going to be able to surveil a couple of times, draw some cards, take 2, down to 6. Kedo at 3, and here is the Dream Eater flashing on in. Nightmare Sphinx.
And this is actually lethal once he suits it up with the glaive,
yep.
As if Ari doesn't have instant speed removal.
I think he's just got a deadweight in hand. Oh, maybe he's an Artful Takedown.
And Ari is thinking about, yeah, he's going to pull the trigger now because there's a risk that Alexander could have in hand or have surveilled to the top a counterspell, and he doesn't want to risk just losing on the spot, so he'll take care of it right away.
All right, why not? Plague Crafters both head to the graveyard. I mean, that is what they do, spreading that plague.
So a lot of this is going to depend on how strong is the card that the card or cards that Alexander surveilled to the top here.
Assassin's Trophy takes down Bartisan Bats from Ari Lax. He's able to go and find a land. I believe that is the head of another guild mage, by the way. The head of the Azorius Guild that Vraska has turned to stone.
Wow.
Yeah, Vraska means business right about now. Oh, that's a nice one. Watcher in the Mist.
More Surveil.
Get rid of those lands. Taking a look through Kedo's graveyard. Mana base. Before potential death. Yeah, dead weight here.
So this will put Ari to 1. It's going to be a 1/4 creature given +4/+4. I'm sorry, +4/+0. 5 damage in either case.
Thoughtbound Phantasm here, and Ari Lax has to scoop him up. That's game number 1 going to Alexander Kedo. Here with a couple of our undefeated players in the room as we play out round number 9.
You know what I think happened there?
What?
I think Alexander just out-surveilled Ari.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The 4 surveil of Dream Eater, being able to dig so deep and smooth his draws for so many turns, just a little too powerful.
Once again, we're seeing the power of blue in these sealed decks on display for us here in the future match area. just been a very, very strong color in Guilds of Ravnica Sealed. And I mean, when you're surveilling and your opponent's not, you know, that's a pretty big swing in your favor.
Yeah, it's true, and we've repeatedly highlighted the dead weights in Ari's deck, which I think those cards have been instrumental in bringing him to this point, 8-0. If he faces a Boros deck, if he faces a deck that's relying on some particular utility creatures, having access to 3 dead weights is just amazing, helping him keep pace. But it's not necessarily going to be one of the most appealing things for a blue mirror. So
sure.
This might not be the match where Ari's advantage is the greatest that he's played so far today, and he might have a tough road ahead of him beating Alexander Cadeau in 2 games.
Taking a look at their deck lists here, what do you think, if you just had to take a look at what Ari's doing over there, what do you think it involves?
Well, he's going to prepare himself for a long game.
Sure.
A game where it could potentially be full deck against full deck. Like, neither player is going to win with a quick rush down, so the game's going to go on forever. You're going to want to save your removal for the most important threats, save your counter spells for the most important spells. And Ari's going to be thinking along those lines of what cards do I put in my deck to give myself the greatest advantage in that drawn-out inevitability type situation.
And you know what? We were talking about it earlier this weekend about the lockets not making much of an appearance in the feature match area. And I'm trying to think now. I think I remember seeing like 1. Do we have our verdict?
Not for me. I don't have a verdict yet. I still think the lockets, they have a place. They're not exciting cards, but every now and again your deck lends itself to making good use of that effect.
I think I might be putting them in too aggressively.
Yeah, you think so?
I mean, based on what I feel like I've been seeing.
I tend to think the second locket is questionable. The first one, you can always make a case for it, but it can be very clunky to draw multiples, and especially when so many of the guilds want to emphasize a high creature count, or in fact, you want to emphasize a high spell count, so it can be hard to find room. These 2 players that we're watching right now, they don't even really have access to on-color lockets. Like, they could play an Is-It locket, but 4 blue mana to sacrifice, not really what you're looking for. Ari has an enhanced surveillance in his sideboard. I sort of like jokingly said that he got out surveilled in that game 1, but it's kind of true. And if we're talking about a type of game where it could come down to decking or being able to play your best cards multiple times, the reshuffle ability of enhanced surveillance could be important.
Yeah, we've talked about that card, or I've heard people talk about that card quite a bit, and using it specifically out of the sideboard has been the grade that a lot of people have been giving it. Alexander is going to take a mulligan here. Ari is happy with his 7. Again, we are playing round 9 here, which is technically the first round of day 2. We played on day number 1 just to help a little bit out with timing and schedule, so players aren't here until all hours tomorrow. So it is a final round with their sealed deck, and then tomorrow we're going to come back and we are going to draft.
I'm eager to see which player is going first in this game.
Yes.
Because
you've been keeping your eye on this, Reed.
Right, yeah. I find it fascinating. It's one of those small decisions, but I like to see how different players navigate it and what different players value. So Ari lost game 1. It's his choice whether he wants to play or draw.
Yep, and he's drawn.
Yeah. Big deal in a matchup that's going to go long, and actually traditional knowledge would have a mulligan being more punishing on the draw, so Ari must be feeling good about his decision right now.
Whispering Snitch kicks things off for Alexander Cadeau here in game number 2, currently up a game over Ari Lax. Never happened here from Ari. All right, let's take a look at what Alexander kept. Ooh, and there's some good ones in there. But no blue mana.
Gotta imagine that Dream Eater's getting out of
Goodbye.
there. It's tempting when you have a situation like this to be like, oh, he's 2 blue mana away. Maybe I don't have to worry about it till later. But for me, if I'm planning for the long game, that is the card I do not want to be cast against me.
So Night Veil Sprite in this hand as well. The 1/2 that surveils Notion Rain. Surveils draws cards, and Ari is taking away the Notion Rain.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess if he's got an answer
If
for
he's got an
the
answer.
Dream Eater, like a counter spell or something, but it feels like playing with fire to me.
Whispering Snitch in for 1, lax down to 19. Still no blue mana for Cadeau. Ooh, this is a card we've seen be absolutely fantastic for Ari. But it's going to head right to the graveyard with Assassin's Trophy.
Yeah, but Ari's probably not too disappointed to get an extra land there. It's
Yeah.
a clean 2-for-1 advantage, or 1-for-0 advantage if you want to call it that. And his deck can clearly use its mana because he sees so many cards. And this means every time he surveils and looks at a land, he can put it in the graveyard guilt-free. Whereas otherwise it might have been a tough decision. So the Assassin's Trophy is certainly coming with a drawback.
Darkblade Agent here for Lax. Burglar Rat from Cadeau. All right, so we've got a little bit of wall put up here for Cadeau. Partisan Batso will add some pressure in the air for Arilax. No blue mana, quick pass back from Cadeau. Bats turning sideways, hit to the air. Cadeau would take 3.
Charnel
Ooh, Charnel Troll, hello. How much food does he have? Just 1.
Just the Thief of Sanity.
There's the blue mana coming in tapped for Cadeau. Is it too little too late? All right, here we see the Charnel Troll. It must eat, as trolls must do, and it does. Takes down the Thief of Sanity, gets the +1/+1 counter. If he wants to keep it alive, he's got to feed it next turn too. Okay, so we're going to see a Deadly Visit here, taking down the Whispering Snitch. Is this to try and fill the yard?
Yeah, I think so. He knows that Alexander has a relatively strong hand of blue cards and just hit his blue mana, so he's counting on Alexander having a strong turn basically every turn for the rest of the game. So the question is, how much can he press his advantage now while he has that advantage? And if the answer is not very much, then he's going to have to settle in and play a fair game. He doesn't want to play a fair game. He wants to score an easy win.
Okay, so this is also going to trigger the Darkblade Agent here. Death Touch, and the rat's going to jump in front, so Ari doesn't draw that card.
I like this block from Alexander. So Ari surveilled and didn't put a creature into the graveyard. He also did not leave himself with the proper mana to activate Charnel Troll's discard ability. So for me, I'm thinking Ari doesn't have a creature, and that big 5/5 trample that's giving me all these problems, that's just going to die if I can make sure he doesn't find anything.
Yeah, great stuff there. Night Veil Sprite hits the table for Cadeau. How's Guild Mage?
I don't think that's legal.
Oh yeah, you don't have that. You don't have that much blue. There we go, Plague Crafter.
Oh no, Alexander!
Oh yeah, we just set it up.
You can't put a creature into Ari's graveyard.
Yeah, we just set it up last turn. All All right, so he gave the troll fodder, artful takedown.
Oh, geez. I think Alexander maybe got flustered with the mistapping mana there and just made a hasty decision.
Yeah, I've definitely been there before.
If he had waited and let the troll die and then used the Plaguecrafter the following turn, he was losing, but maybe he could have got back into it. But
yeah,
the troll definitely needed to die on Ari's upkeep if Alexander was going to win that game.
Yeah, it definitely happens. All right, so we're tied up here. Arilax taking game number 2, 1 game apiece here in round 9. It's been awesome all day to be able to watch Guilds of Ravnica sealed. I love to see it played in this first big tournament after the release.
And it'll be fascinating to see what's different about tomorrow when we get down to booster draft.
A lot different or a little different? What do you think, Reed?
I think a lot different. I think we'll see some commonalities, but many differences. If you ask me, it seemed like the green guilds kind of got creamed today.
Yeah, I agree.
We saw some good Boros action. The very good draws and very good versions of the Boros deck seemed to perform well, but mostly it was blue and Dimir in particular. I do think things will be a lot more balanced tomorrow in Booster Draft, and we'll see all 5 guilds represented and successful in one form or another.
We didn't see a lot of Golgari at the World Championship with the Team Series finals.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that was your early kind of inclination that was a weaker guild in sealed? Or did it just not
We had a pretty bad experience with Golgari in Team Sealed. Like I said, I think individual booster draft is a bit more balanced where all of the guilds can succeed given the right cards and situation. But Golgari is less of a synergy guild where there's not like a dream Golgari deck. Short of just packing a bunch of rares into your deck, there's not really like a super, super exciting version or curve out that you can get from Golgari. It's more about fair magic, grinding your small advantages with your burglar rats, your generous strays, your removal spells. And that's something that lends itself more to the slightly lower power of booster draft and not so well to the very high power level of Team Sealed where you're trying to build the best possible decks you can come up with.
Yeah, so really interesting. At this point, this early in the format, we'll have already seen all 3 different variations on Limited tomorrow.
That's true. Only missing Team Booster Draft.
Oh yeah, good point. Good point. That one's a rare treat. I love that.
Yeah, that's kind of a niche format. We don't see that very often.
Thoughtbound Phantasm, turn 1 here, or excuse me, turn 2 for Cadeau, as we are underway in game number 3. Deadweight from Lax. And that one feels pretty good. But here's a House Guild Mage. Do you have another one? No, indeed. Arilax passed the turn back over to Cadeau.
Wow, getting to untap with the House Guild Mage is a big deal here. And maybe Alexander has a strong play, but I would have been at least thinking about, let me get my value while I can.
Okay.
But I guess it's clear if Ari didn't have a removal spell this turn, he's not likely to have one next turn. So maybe you want to just develop your board a little bit. But it makes me wonder if Ari kept all 3 copies of Deadweight in his deck, or maybe boarded down to 2.
Ooh. Nightveil Predator just kind of shrugs. Does it resolve? It does. Hits the table for Arilax. Whisper Agent flashes in for Cadeau. He surveils and leaves it on top. Ooh, he is a Nightveil Predator of his own.
So he surveilled Status Statue to the top.
Yeah, it's so hard to leave that one behind, even when you... Oh, gosh, but the mana.
I think you should have left it behind. He's missing green, he's missing his land drops, and the threat on the opposite side of the battlefield is hexproof.
Oh. Thief of Sanity for Arilax, and here we go. We're going to get another Surveil for Cadeau. Capture Sphere into the yard. Left the dead weight on top to deal with the Thief of Sanity. Unexplained disappearance is going to save it.
Well, let's hope for Alexander's sake that he can find a fourth land to deploy either his statue or another answer to the Thief of Sanity.
Ari Lax here going to make doubly sure what's going on in Cadeau's hand.
That's a strong hand.
Yes,
that
it
is a good grip. I'm going to expect Ari to take away Night Veil Predator, which would limit the number of really effective draws Cadeau could have next turn. Well, I guess it all depends. If Ari has a 6th untapped land to replay Thief of Sanity, I'm guessing he does based on the way he played this turn.
Yeah, he does.
So if Alexander doesn't find an untapped green source, which he has very few of, maybe only one in his deck, then he might have to think about just using Severed Strands on the Thief of Sanity, or maybe sucking it up and taking a hit. Neither of those sound too great.
Yeah, a tough decision here for Ari. He's taking some time to think about what to snatch out of Cadeau's hand.
Yeah, for me, it's Night Veil Predator, because that's the card that Alexander could realistically play next turn and cause a big problem.
He's going to take Severed Strands.
Okay, so Ari just really gambling that Alexander does not draw a Swamp.
Ooh, there it is.
Severed Strands also should be exiled. That's, I guess, probably not that likely to come up unless Alexander is something like Devious Cover-Up, but something that you should know if you're playing with Never Happened at home.
Whisper Agent here going to trade off with that Thief of Sanity. Muse Drake draws a card. Deadweight takes care of that House Guild Mage. But now we've got dueling Night Veil Predators in play. There's a Sprite. Leapfrog's going to be the play for Lax, and that's all she wrote. And 5th mana coming in tapped for Cadeau.
So we have a real stalemate on our hands. No creatures can attack into the Night Veil Predators except for the Night Veil Predators themselves. So until one of these players is willing to break the holding pattern, we don't have anything going on. And Alexander's still with that Dream Eater in hand.
Leapfrog's going to make a go for it. Night Veil Sprite's like, snap that off. I wasn't doing anything anyway. And there's Charnel Troll. And I think he has a lot to eat.
I think so too.
Ooh, there's Plague Crafter. Deadly Visit takes care of the Troll, which we knew Cadeau had in hand. So we could try and set something up to get that Predator sacrificed.
Meaning like a Plague Crafter?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be big here. Doesn't look like Ari has it. Wow, I think Ari's just going to get overpowered here.
All right, so Predator is swinging on in for Cadeau. Midnight Reaper hits the table for him as well.
Midnight Reaper, a really strong value card in this matchup because it sort of demands an answer. You can't let it hang around and trigger anytime a creature dies, but if you also give your opponent a clean 2-for-1, that's exactly what a Dimir deck wants in this sort of mirror match. And Alexander still with a stocked hand, and if he draws one more land, access to the Dream Eater.
We're going to jumpstart here, Radical Idea for Lax. Both players with the status statue in hand, I believe.
this game really just centered all around the Night Vale Predators, and to go back to that tough decision Ari had with the Never Happened, it made sense from one perspective at least to take the only card that Alexander could cast with 3 mana, but it did turn out that Alexander drew an untapped Black Source to cast the Night Vale Predator, and that made things a lot harder on Ari Lax.
Overgrown Tomb for Cadeau, and there's Plague Crafter. Boom, Predator sacrificed.
And Alexander
Just
drawing
draw
a
a
card
card.
off of the Reaper.
Watcher in the Mist, Surveil 2, 1 top, 1 bottom for Ari Lax, who's at 10, Cadeau at 13, who's found his green mana last turn. And Dream Eater's coming in now. Return that Watcher in the Mist to your hand. Surveil 4, keep 2 on top, get in.
And if Ari's best play is to recast Watcher in the Mist, Alexander Cadeau, as we know, has that status statue, which will be lethal unless Ari has two spells to play.
Deadly Visit here, taking care of the Midnight Reaper. As you said, that cannot just stay on the battlefield unchecked. As much carnage as we've seen this game.
By this point, however, Alexander has surveilled 4, left 2 cards on the top, drawn them both off of the Midnight Reaper trigger and his draw step. His hand is stacked, and Ari Lax has his back against the wall in a serious way.
Gets in, knocks Lax down to 3. Watcher in the Mist of Cadeau's own. Let's surveil another 2. Ooh, puts them both on top. That's something you don't want to see. Burglar Rat, please discard. Down goes the Watcher in the Mist for Lax. Off that discard. What? 2 crushing canopies take down the Dream Eater and the Watcher in the Mist on Cadeau's side of the battlefield, leaving him with just a rat. Oh my gosh, that was great. Get in there, rat.
I wonder if we're going to see Burglar Rat with status to finish off the game.
I mean, he's been trying to attain status for himself his whole life by stealing pretty things.
The Burglar Rat has to be starting as one of the lowest status
Oh, yes.
creatures in Ravnica.
And then Vraska or somebody is like, you know what? I'm going to knight you, Mr. Rat. Sir Rat. I assume that's what status is doing. I don't know. That rat's so proud. And he should be. Ari at 2 life, Cadeau at 12 here in game number 3, battling to start drafting tomorrow. Plague Crafter takes down the Plague, the rat and itself. And Whispering Snitch could kill Ari out of nowhere. Ooh, Rhizome Lurcher. All right, how big is this, buddy?
It's going to be a big statue in a moment.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And Ari knows it right to the yard. Whispering Snitch in for 1. Can we surveil for the final point of damage? It would be so great. Not yet.
The game continues.
All right, well, no attacks there. Darkblade Agent stops things off. Bartizan Baths hits the table for Ari and knows, like, you know what? I'm just going to play my cards and hope you never surveil ever again. Burglar Rat, discard your land. And it comes down to the top of the deck. Ooh, there we go. Oh, Devious Cover-Up.
Yep, so Ari must counter this, because otherwise it'll give menace to one of the creatures. But, wow, the restocking of the deck at this stage in the game is big. Ari can easily win this game, despite being at 1 life. Imagine he shuffles back in 3 or 4 removal spells, draws 1 for the Whispering Snitch. Suddenly he's in a commanding position.
Oh, my gosh. That's 4 pretty good cards to get back there.
So, okay, Ari's considering not just what does he want to draw most on his next turn, because that would certainly be Deadly Visit.
Yeah.
A spell that can get rid of the Whispering Snitch and give him a Surveil to trigger Darkblade Agent would be a huge game changer. But he's also got to think, this game is going long. What cards do I need? Well, I guess the game's
Crushing Canopy there.
Okay, so had Alexander been holding the Canopy, drew the Glaive, and that was
Oh, I see.
that was the bait for the counterspell. That was sort of a confusing ending, but
Yeah.
it looks like Alexander had the removal spell for the Bat, which allowed either one of his 1-power creatures to chip in for the last point of damage, and that's it. That's
Wow.
Alexander Cadeau going 9-0 on day 1 of Grand Prix Montreal.
Well, that was pretty cool. Wow, that was almost Ari's to snatch away from Cadeau, but congratulations to both of them heading into day 2. And Alexander's going to start off undefeated. Feels pretty good, don't you think, Reed?
Amazing. Yeah, I mentioned at the start of the match, but the difference between 8-1 and 9-0 is big. They're both tremendously they're both tremendous records. They're great records that anyone should be proud of, and you get to go into day 2 in a great position to have a money finish. But if your goal is top 8, the difference between 9-0 and 8-1 is quite large. At 8-1, you probably have to go 5-1 tomorrow, which means having back-to-back tremendous days to make top 8. But 9-0, it's a lot more attainable. 4-2, maybe 3-2-1, depending on the size of the tournament.
All right, well, we'll be back here tomorrow to watch Guilds of Ravnica draft. Be sure to join us. Thanks for watching today.